and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Averill.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with journalist and co-host of Third Hour of Today, Sheinelle Jones. We'll also be getting into our hot take this week, where we'll be discussing the Marcus Stokes and Albany State University drama. But first, Tia, this weekend was crazy.
Listen, okay, y'all. What do we have? We have our finalists. We have the teams that's going to Super Bowl this year. Okay, so did you catch both games?
I caught both games. Yes. The first game between the Eagles and the 49ers was a surprise to me.
I was surprised too, but I'm not gonna lie.
I thought it was going to be closer, like a back-to-back, like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I'm not going to lie. I felt bad for the 49ers by the end of the game. And then like Joe Kittle just summed it up for us. Like literally losing the NFC Championship game, like going to Super Bowl because you don't have a quarterback. Because you lost your third and fourth string QB. Like that is horrible. Granted,
it is.
I mean, the way the Eagles came down, I don't know if they had a true chance anyway, but still.
Listen, it was a tough one to watch because we all know it would have been a much better game if the 49ers had their quarterback. But kudos to them for making it all the way to the NFC Championship game and doing the best that they could do with what they had. There's some wonderful players on that team and women supporting them. So I hope you guys take a little time and relax and enjoy yourselves. I know it's hard to say now because it's just real fresh.
Listen.
But I hope y'all get away and just unwind and enjoy each other. Okay, let's fast forward.
Been there.
Yes, we have.
Look, we done been there.
Real talk.
So what about that KC game?
So Kansas City and Cincinnati, that was actually a good game. And I wasn't really sure how it was going to be. There was a lot of controversy towards the end. People was going in on the internet about the calls and blah, blah, blah. But overall, I thought it was a good game. It went down to the nitty gritty. And here we are. Here we are with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Tell me, Tia.
Yes.
What you think?
Okay, so you mean who's my prediction? Like who I think is gonna win?
What you think about the AFC game and who you think's gonna win going into Super Bowl?
So the AFC game was great. To be honest, I did really want the Bills to be, competing for the championship and actually make it to Super Bowl. I thought that would be a nice little Cinderella story given what they've experienced the last 12 months. But here we are. That Cincinnati-Kansas game was out of control. It really sucks that it came down to a penalty. That was like the most obvious situation, And so that's unfortunate, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And who I think gonna win? I ain't gonna lie, NFC coming through like a wrecking ball, okay? The Eagles have been dominating all season. Like, I don't see them losing. I see them getting their second Super Bowl in 5 years. I do.
They have been killing it. And just to see the team, like they had to really rebuild. They had to put a lot of missing pieces in to get their team to where they are now. So, yeah, I see the Eagles doing something special. Fly, Eagles, fly. I can't even front. I've enjoyed watching them. And let me tell you, in these playoff games, it was not close. Like, I feel like the Eagles they've been showing up and just wrecking shop. So I expect them to do something similar here in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And quick shout out to Nicole Lynn, friend of the show.
Yes.
The first Black female agent to have a quarterback represented in the Super Bowl. So let's get it, Nicole. Congratulations.
Nicole, we see you. And she's been grinding for a long time. I'm proud of her. And shout out to these brothers that are supporting her and giving her an opportunity. And she's doing her thing. So
look, all you got to do is get your toe in the dough.
That's right.
And you're going to kick it down, okay?
Okay, and before we get into this week's hot take, Tia, let's let them know.
Listen, y'all know our live Super Bowl show is coming up. It is February 11th at Neiman Marcus in Scottsdale. When I say, y'all, this will be the best one yet.
Yes. VIP is sold out, y'all. There's no VIP tickets. There's only general admission. And it's early bird until Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. After that, you have to pay a little more. So you might want to get your tickets today. Tuesday, get your tickets, because after this they go up and there's not a lot left. So the longer you wait, the more you pay. If you know you're going to be in Scottsdale, if you know you're going to be in Arizona for the Super Bowl, come check out our show. I promise y'all you will love
on
it.
us, okay?
That's right. That's right. Okay, now let's get into this week's hot take. All right, it's time for this week's hot take, Tia. What we got?
Okay, so this week we are discussing all the drama between Marcus Stokes and Albany State University. Okay, so number one, for those of you who are not familiar with Marcus, he is an elite QB. He had offers from Penn State, which he actually committed to, and then ended up flipping, going to Florida before his final season started. And then there was some videos that resurfaced of him using the N-word. I do have to say he was singing a song, but needless to say, Florida snatched that offer right on up. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. The first time I heard this story, I thought he was black. I don't know too many white guys with the name Marcus, but here we are. So anyway, he had his scholarship offer rescinded. And then it surfaced that Albany State University, which is an HBCU, extended a scholarship for him. And of course, social media and everybody had an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And just when I thought my opinion was solidified, the coach announced that he was rescinding that offer and saying that Albany State is not the place for Marcus to get or to gain his redemption. Okay. And after a little digging, we found out the president of the school was like, not today. Not today. But
So basically, they didn't do their research ahead of time.
you know what? I think he did his research ahead of time. And I think he, like the head coach pulled the trigger. Yeah, I think the head coach knew that, he was an elite quarterback. It wasn't like he was an under the radar kind of guy. But then the president of the school found out and was like, no, thank you.
Definitely didn't know. He was like, we don't want that kind of drama around here.
Listen. Okay, so my question to you, Atoya, is... let's assume Albany State didn't rescind this offer a couple days ago. How did you feel when you heard that they had extended this offer to him? This
I was
HBCU.
shocked. I'm going to be honest. I was shocked. I was like, what? Wait, what? What are we doing here? And you know what's so funny? When people were talking about it, to your point, and like people going crazy on social media, they were like, did they not know? It's out that they said is Albany State not a black HBCU anymore? We're trying to figure out what's going on because people were so confused because it just makes no sense. So for me, I was shocked and appalled, and I think that first of all, he needs to come out and say something.
Who is
this
he?
kid?
Marcus.
This kid, Marcus, needs to come out and say something because. It would make more sense if like Albany did this in the sense of like, okay, he took accountability. He said what he said. This is why, but none of that happened. And for it to be his first offer, like out of all universities, it's his first offer after getting basically pushed to the side. So, yeah, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was reckless. And I thought that it was very irresponsible for the head coach to do that. What about you? What'd you think?
Okay, so I'm going to say this, but I'm only saying this because we're coming off the heels of the drama with Ed Reed, the stuff with Deion Sanders and things of that nature. But I don't understand why they would extend an offer to him either. Right? Like this, like if you really sit in the drama that has transpired over the last 2 months, December and January, why would you do this to yourself? Like, I don't understand it. Right.
Right.
I do have like this, this thing I'm trying to make it through. Right. Where I understand the need for redemption, but is that the responsibility of the greater body of this HBCU, right? Like, do you have to redeem yourself with me, or can you redeem yourself with another school? Like, could you redeem yourself and like prove that, to your point, that you have accepted accountability, that you made changes and things like that? I have a problem with people holding kids' mistakes over their head for an extended period of time.
I agree. Absolutely.
Granted, like I said, this is not applicable to this situation because we're coming off the heels of too much going on in HBCU land with football programs. But, and I mean, I feel the same way with how people look at and treat young Black kids, right? Like when young Black kids get in trouble, that whether it could be them stealing from grocery stores or whatever in the area of their school, whatever, fill in the blank mistake, them not being allowed the same grace as some of their white peers. I have a problem with all of that. So
you know what I told Nate? I said, the only reason or the only way this would have been okay is two things. A, he would have accepted accountability for his actions, which he has not because he hasn't said anything. And B, they would have put him in African American studies so he could learn about the culture. And because that's the only way he gonna learn about it, because he ain't learned about it nowhere else. So if they would have put it all together and made it make sense, I would have been like, yes, we need more to teach them. Let these guys go out here and learn about real African American studies and culture so they can teach their culture. But that wasn't the case. That's the only way I would have let it slide.
Okay, so now to one, that's funny for two things. Number one, I did not see where Marcus is from. So I need to check that. But if Marcus was from Florida, and y'all know all this stuff, all this drama with Florida and them pulling African-American AP studies out of schools. Anyway, but okay, so my question to you, Toya. Do you think this would be an issue if he went to go play under Coach Prime?
Yeah. Because I think Coach, it's not that I don't think it would have been an issue. I think Coach Prime, to my point, would have handled it differently. Like he would have had to make a public apology and show accountability because that's just how Deion is. Deion would have put him in he would have been in multiple Black study classes. He would have been probably going to the gospel churches. He would have been helping out at the Boys and Girls Club. It would have been above and beyond because that's Deion. He's like, we're going to do it. We're going to go all the way in. So if someone would have handled it that way, I would have no problem with it. But unfortunately, I
wonder, did he reach out to Deion?
Oh, yeah, I doubt it.
I wonder, did he reach out to Deion? Colorado State?
Nah. Deion
It's not an HBCU. It's the whole situation.
Deion he already got a quarterback. Next.
Who's his QB? Is it his son?
Son.
Okay, come on, does his son play QB? Is he
Yes, that's his son. So that's already taken care of. He's like, we're good here. Thank you. Okay, that's it for this week's Hot Takes. Coming up next, our chat with Sheinelle Jones. On the show today, we have a graduate of Northwestern University's School of Journalism. She was honored by the National Association of Black Journalists. She is the co-host of the third hour of Today on NBC, and she is also a wife and mother of three. Sheinelle Jones, welcome to the show.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I've watched you guys from afar on Instagram, and I listen to you guys. I'm like, yay, I made the cut.
Come on. Listen, you've been made the cut, boo. I've been trying to get you on.
I'm here.
I'm so glad in your busy schedule you took the time out to come on. We are so excited to have you.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
I want to say thank you for what you do. I remember watching you in the mornings. And I just truly enjoyed you. You were just so genuine. I was telling Sarah, I just always enjoyed you. And so it just so happened that we ended up sitting at the same table at the Apollo. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then when we talked and laughed and kikied, I'm like,
oh yeah. Remember, I'm like, where have you been all my life? You're so nice. Like, do you want to be my friend?
Yes. It's few far and in between. It's hard in New York.
It is. And I feel like you saw me and vice versa, and we ended up from the Apollo. Then we were at Red Rooster. I mean, it was a day.
Red Rooster was lit. It was good times.
Listen.
Okay, well, let's talk about you because there's just so many amazing layers to you and all that you are and do. And I just would like to know, because I know you went to school for journalism. Is this something you've always wanted to do? How did you decide to take that path?
It is. We've been trying to find this paper because we had it for so long. And I was in 5th grade. It was a career day. It was a yellow sheet of paper, construction paper. And I drew myself as a news anchor with the helmet hair, hoop earrings, little box by my head. And I remember saying, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a news anchor, right? And so my mom is like queen of quotes and what you think about, you bring about, and you can do it, and ask what you want, take what you get, use what you get to get what you want, like all these sayings. And so she was like, well, what would you need to do if you wanted to be a reporter? What would you have to, you have to make sure you have to read, you have to do your homework, you have to be friendly, you have to be outgoing, run for student council, so all the things. So if I look back, from a very early age, I was trying to get here. I really was, like in whatever capacity it was. And then whatever I would do, my mom would say, okay, now how can you use this to help you, get to where you want? And so it's been that way since I was young, interviewing my little brother with my pencil. I mean, it's kind of been.
What was it about the field of journalism that made you like gravitate into that space?
Well, I grew up dancing, and I liked the performance. I liked the stage. That was kind of fun, but I was also a smart kid. I liked to read. I liked to talk. So it just seemed like I remember shadowing a woman in the business when I was like a freshman in high school, and then I knew. So it's interesting that I fell in love before we had our first date with TV, because when I got into a newsroom, I was like, oh, I knew I loved you, and this is it. Wow. Like I loved it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make it a point to, whenever they'll have me as an intern at any of these TV stations. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. I was like, maybe I could be an intern. And so I started interning when I was a sophomore in college, or a sophomore in high school. And I would go to the local CBS affiliate in my cheerleading skirt, and I would run prompter for their 5 p.m. news. Like I was everywhere. And they had this special program at my high school where you could be an intern at a place that you were interested in. Like, so some kids would go to vets, or they would go visit dentists or doctors. I was in a TV station. And so sophomore year in high school, junior year in high school, summer of my freshman year in college, all the way until my junior year in college, I was in somebody's newsroom every summer.
Wow. Okay, so you learned all facets, right? So you said the prompter. Like, tell people what that was like, because I
will never forget messing up the prompter for Cindy Close in Wichita, the CBS affiliate at 10 p.m. I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna hate me. So now if my prompter person
Okay, what happened?
I know, I clearly have PTSD over messing up that woman's prompter on a random Tuesday at 10 p.m. in Wichita back in 1992.
Okay, what happened?
It's hard. Like, you see a news person, and especially, they're looking at you, they look like they're looking at you, and they're having a conversation. There is someone on the back end sweating, trying to keep the words flowing so that they sound like they're just talking to you. And I was 15, 16. And so I remember, trying to turn the dial just so, and then if you go backwards, the words go backwards. And I was probably nervous. So now I remember my early days in this business. If the prompter person messed up, I would be like, well, that's okay, because I did that too.
I've been there. Yeah.
I remember when I was an intern in college, I would take the scripts home that the anchors would read, and I would read it into a tape recorder and then play it back. And it's been a journey.
So you've done all facets. So you have grace for everybody around you.
I have grace. I was my first job in the business. I was what they call a one-man band in Springfield, Illinois. It was an NBC affiliate. And back then, it was in 2000, 23 years ago, the cameras were bigger than I am. I'm 4'11". The tripods were heavy, and I'd be out there with the tripod, the camera. I remember one of my first stories was about a young golf phenom who's taking the world by storm. His name is Tiger Woods, and people think he's going to be amazing. Yep. And I remember sitting up my tripod and sitting on a golf cart and talking to the camera, but I had to prop it somewhere because I didn't have a camera person. I mean,
it's been a journey. Crazy. You had to prop the camera. Right. And make sure it does not fall.
Frame.
And then get in front of it
right.
Okay.
With my blazer. I remember it was a powder pink blazer with shoulder pads.
That paddle.
She said I was fine in it. Okay. Powder
and
pink.
then I had to go back and play it to make sure I didn't cut my head off before I got back to the studio. All the things. All the things.
Make sure you did it.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So your first job was in Wichita.
Yeah, I went to Springfield. I went to Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. When you're at Northwestern your junior year, they place you. There's a special program. It's different now, but they would place you as a program as a reporter or wherever you wanted to be in a city. So I picked Topeka, Kansas, which seemed small, but I knew that if I found a small city, that maybe they would use me and like put me on the air and I could make a reel out of it, right? Because some kids wanted to go intern in New York, and I was like, no, I think you should pick a place that's like small, so they may need help, right? And so that's exactly what happened. I was a sophomore in college, and for a semester when I was interning at this CBS station in Topeka, they'd be like, Sheinelle, can you go out and do? And I'm like, absolutely. So then I remember, they were starting to put me on the air because they, once I was able to cut it, they like were using me. And so then I went back over the summer. I remember I worked at American Eagle, because interns never paid, internships never paid. And I would go to that station whenever they needed me. I would work on weekends. And so then when I got to my senior year in college, I used the work I did there in Topeka as my reel. And I sent out like 40 tapes, and I got no callbacks. And right when I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do, I got a call back from, I didn't even get hired at Topeka, at the station that I did. I was like, well, dang. Right? I was like, man, did I suck? But what I know now is they didn't talk about it back then. And I don't know. Look, the station has to reflect the audience, right? And has to reflect the community. So if they have 4 brown women and there's a team of 11 and they lose their meteorology, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not necessarily about your talent. It's just about what they need for their roster. And so I know that now, because at the time I was like, well, dang, And so I ended up sending a tape to Springfield, Illinois, and the guy liked me. It was a one-man band position, so I took that. So Springfield, Illinois was my first job. I was a one-man band. I reported for the morning show. Then they made me the morning anchor there. Then I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I anchored weekends in Tulsa at the Fox station. Then I anchored 5 p.m. in Tulsa. And then from Tulsa, I went to Philly. I was a morning reporter in Philly at the Fox station. And then I became the morning anchor for 9 years. And then the Today Show.
Talk about a journey.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand and know the journey, Sheinelle. Yeah. So like, just for you to just really break that down and really explain to people what you went through to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
That was a grind.
Yeah. It was a grind. And you move to these cities where you don't know anybody. Look, I'm AKA, so I would my mom would be calling her sorority sisters. My daughter's moving there. She had me going to the Links meeting, or AKA meetings. And I remember I coached a cheerleading squad, this like middle school cheerleading squad. I took a tap class with these, literally, it looked like the Golden Girls and Sheinelle in these small cities in Springfield, just trying to try to make a life while I was trying to figure it out. There would be days where I would just be in the shower because I was always doing mornings, so I'd have to be there at 3 a.m. and I would just cry. I'm like, okay, I know I wanted this, Lord, but like, this is tough. I'm tired.
Did I really want this? Yeah.
I'm tired.
You know what? Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. So when I graduated, I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
Knoxville is like a complete college town, and if you aren't there for school, then what are you really here for, kind of thing. But
I'm sure all the folks in Knoxville really appreciate that, but that's okay.
right. Look, it is what are you here for? But I will say it's not a large Black population, things of that nature. Yeah. And I also, I didn't join a sorority in college either, right? So I think it's something to be said about those types of networks and organizations that you do develop there, because no matter where you move, you have something you can tap into.
I had sisters and aunties everywhere I went.
Yeah, because I was sitting there like, okay, well, how am I supposed to make friends if I don't want to be with my work people all the time? Like, how am I supposed to really feel a part of the community? Yeah.
Yep. It's tough. I remember, so I was dating, well, he's not my husband, but we were dating in college, and we did long distance for 7 years. Maybe, because he was like, I'm supposed to be moving to Springfield, Illinois, and then I'm supposed to be moving to Tulsa. Is that what we're supposed to be doing? It actually worked out, because then I was like, you know what, that's fine. You were back there, but let me do my thing. And it was good for me to have that time.
Yeah.
But it was a grind.
My husband stopped visiting Knoxville. He came once and he was like, I'm going to just fly you to me because there's nothing here. We can't do this.
It all worked out.
It did. Okay, so you guys were doing long distance for 7 years.
Yep.
So he was where, and you were?
So he also went to Northwestern. I'm a year older than he is.
Cougars unite.
I know, right? And then he didn't tell me when I met him freshman year in college. He was smart and skipped a grade. So then it made me almost 2 years older. I was like, you whooped me. I didn't know. I fell for you. Now I'm like, dang it. You're cute.
We're gonna let that slide.
We're gonna let you let that slide. So I remember I got the job in Springfield. He was still in college, and then I would call him, and I'm getting home from work or going to work, and I would hear all this partying in the background, like he's at some frat house or out at some party, and I'm like, it was rough for a second because it was like I was in the adult world and he was still in,
That is so hard. Yes.
That was rough. And then his first job, where was he? Chicago. So that was Springfield. So we was like long distance. And then I got the job in Tulsa. He got a job in DC. I mean, it was just, he's a consultant. So they need larger cities. So we just, when I finally got the job in Philly, my grandmother called me. She said, now listen. Y'all done been dating for all this time. He needs to or get off the pot. And I was like, oh, okay.
Hey,
look, grandmas, they be
you gonna need to move on.
They know.
They get straight to the point.
TikTok, honey. So he moved to Philly, and we eventually got married and have 3 children, and here we are.
Okay, but wait. So after grandma made that phone call, what was the conversation like?
I remember, and I tell my girlfriends, I remember thinking, okay, we've been together now for, at that point, maybe 8-9 years. And I was like, I don't want to ask you to marry me. Because I want to have a fairy tale. So I don't want to feel like I put your feet to the fire, or I don't want to feel like that. I don't want my story. That's not the way I want my story to be. So I want to be surprised. I want to feel like you know what I mean? So I remember maybe almost 1.5 2 years before he proposed, I was like, can we bring up something where I know we're probably not getting married anytime soon, but I'm just going to bring up something and then I'm never bringing it up again. I was like, I don't want to be the person that's like, I want to get married. I don't want to have to, I want to feel like, I want to be a fairy tale like I see on TV. So I'm going to bring it up right now, but I'm never bringing it up again. But I don't want to give you like a timetable or whatever, but like I'm in Philly, like I want children, I want to, but I never want to bring this up again. And you have my word that I'm not the nagging girlfriend, because I don't want that. Like that's just, and that's not even us. So I'm just saying it to put it out there. But in this moment, I'm never, just so you know, I'm never bringing it up again. And he was like, okay. And then maybe,
but
like 2 other times,
told him what you wanted. Like
right,
you wanted
2 other
to be married,
times,
you wanted kids.
he would like give me a box, and I'd be like, and then open up and it'd be like a bracelet from Tiffany's. I'm like, thank you.
But I'm never bringing it up again.
But I was not going to bring it up again. And then I was actually genuinely surprised when it happened, because I didn't see it coming. And it turns out he had the ring that time. He like chickened out because he was like, am I ready to move? Like all the things.
Yeah.
So for all my single girlfriends, it's going to be okay. But I was like, I'm not, it worked out.
It did.
Yeah.
And okay, I want to talk about, because you guys are in the city.
We are. It's
you have
a lot.
a family, you have kids. Talk about that, because I'm just going to say this. When Nate and I first moved out this way 6 years ago, we went and looked in the city, and they took us to a couple places, and I had immediate anxiety. I just was like, oh my gosh, well, where do the kids play?
I know.
How do they get to school? I have to walk them? How far is the school? Well, you have to pick these schools. It was so overwhelming for me. How was the experience for you? And how is it, I'm sure it's gotten better.
It is so stressful. And everything you're saying, I'm still living. So, look, the challenge is I work at 30 Rock. And so, I do a morning show. So the benefit was I could be at work. If we stay in the city, I can be at work at 15 minutes, right? But I am from Kansas. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. Like, I saw cows. Like, I mean, it was not too hillbilly, but I mean, we did have like buffalo burgers and stuff in high school, in middle school, elementary school. Like, it's a smaller place. We had grass, I said buffalo burgers, but that's because we also had a pet buffalo down the street from our house. And so when I ate the buffalo burger, it was traumatizing. So that was why I brought up buffalo burgers, because I've got all sorts of very trauma about that.
Okay.
But point is, I'm from a small town somewhat. And then to have my kids taking the subway to school and, taking the train and Ubering all over the place, and it's just, the city is a lot. It's gritty. It's you can try to make it as peaceful as you want, but it's just not. It's a lot, and I struggle with it every day. Like every day. I've got 3 kids. My kids share a room, and we have a big place for New York City. They still share a room. My daughter's over it. So I have 10-year-old twins and a 13-year-old. She's over it. She's like, Mommy, I may be getting my period soon. And so I don't think that I should be sharing a room. That's real. First of all, I'm like, not yet. Don't talk about that. Girl. But it's true. So then I'm struggling with, okay, we have a place outside of the city. that we got during COVID, because I was like, oh, well, if we're gonna be stuck in the house, we've been saving up to buy in New York, and I was like, well, this is not working. So we have a place in the country, but we're just never there because I'm always working. My boys play sports, so we've been making it work, but it is difficult. And even now, I'm being completely honest with you. I don't know where my husband loves it. There are parts of it I love, and he's hardcore. He loves the city. Like he grew up in the suburbs. He grew up in the suburbs, and he didn't like it at all. He was like one of the few brown faces at his high school. You know, he didn't want that for our kids, and so he's like, we're gonna make it work. You know, and I'm like, so it's tough. It is tough. Yeah. It's tough.
How does your 13-year-old like? Because I'm assuming she started school in Philly,
right? So the kids. So my 13-year-old is son. He started in Philly, but when he moved, he was in like kindergarten. So when I moved here, my twins were 2 and Kyan was 5. I moved to New York City with 2 triple strollers and a double stroller. I'm not even kidding.
So
both of my first babysitters quit because they were like, triple strollers on New York City sidewalks are not fun, and we don't want to do this. So, but thank you for your time.
Yeah. And thank you for the workout.
And we don't want your money. We're going to move on now. And I'm laughing, but I'm not kidding. Like they both quit. They were just like, the equilibrium on a triple stroller is not. Can you imagine trying to get on a train with a triple stroller?
No.
No.
I'm sitting here just like,
double was hard
wide or was it long? But either way.
So that's why we had 2, because we had one that was like 3 in a row. And then we had another that's like 2 with the thing on the back. And then everybody at work was like, oh, no. Get the one for the twins and then get the little attachment. So your 13-year-old, or well, he wasn't 13, but your oldest one can like ride like it's a skateboard. It just was, it was just such a
lot.
It was just a lot. And I was new here at the Today Show. So, you know, I was trying to, nobody had kids then. Like I had kids, Carson Daly had kids, Willie Geis. None of the women did. And so I was trying so hard to like make it seem like it was effortless and easy. And so I didn't want to talk about it. So they're like, hey, can you fly here tomorrow? Sure. Hey, can you fly here next Thursday? Sure. So I was flying out all the time. It was tough.
Talk a little bit more about that experience, right? Because I think there's like a lot of women that try to present at work almost like they're on equal footing with everybody.
Yes.
But, there's a whole lot that comes with that, whether you're a wife or parent, a parent trying to manage
it does. And it doesn't matter where you work, especially, again, if you have managers that may not have little ones or your colleagues don't really, and you want to try to hold your weight, especially when I was new here, it's tough. And it's funny. I think I'm hoping things are changing a little bit for the better. Men have paternity leave now. I look up, I'm like, man, you get 4 months. Wow. Like the men.
Oh, the men get that much time too?
Yes, it's changing. It's changing.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
And that for me, it was like 8-9 years ago. But then eventually enough is enough. And your work ethic should, I tried to prove myself so that way when I tell you, listen, I really have to get home tonight. I really can't travel there because I've got to this or that. Because otherwise the mom guilt will just eat you alive, which I hate that phrase, mom guilt, but it's a thing. It's a thing. And so I felt like, I'm doing a morning show, so I don't get to take my kids to school in the morning. I don't get to make them breakfast. I was struggling with my daughter because I wasn't there to do her hair. I was picking her up from school, and I'm like,
what happened?
What? When? Dude. Why? He's like, I don't know. Even just you think putting it in she's natural. So I'm like, he's trying to put it in a ponytail. It's just like bun, and she's not long, so it's a little. It was just never right. And I'm like, what are we gonna do? What? So I would get braids, or I would try to, So when I would literally do braids on Sunday, so that way I would not have to worry about it during the like little things. Like I know that seems so simple, but like but I started to see her get older, and I was like, am I gonna have like a 19-year-old daughter, and I had never done her hair in the morning, like, and not know what that feels like? Because on Saturdays she doesn't want to do it, and on Sundays, so I want to know what that feels like. And so some people think that that's no big deal, but it was, this doesn't come for free. Like, so, a lot of these people see us in these positions, and look, I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it certainly doesn't come for free. And it certainly doesn't come, without trade-offs for you and your family.
That's good. Yeah. Talk about your grind. Like, how early do you have to be up and at 'em?
So I'm kind of like the utility player of the Today Show. So I do news, I can do entertainment. So it's like whenever anybody's out for the earlier hours, I'm filling in for them. And then I host the third hour. But with the team of 10, somebody's always out. So for the most part, I'm kind of on all morning. So I get up usually around like 5:30 if I can, sometimes earlier. If I'm anchoring, it's like maybe 4:15. My daughter, if she doesn't have braids, we have a routine where I'll get in the middle of the night, she'll lay on her tummy and I'll do her hair. She's learned to like put her arm up.
Still get her sleep and still get her sleep.
And she's like barely awake enough to like turn around. And like I'll do her edges, tie a scarf. Because it wasn't lasting overnight. So like she can do it while she's sleeping. So like do that. Sometimes I feel like if they didn't eat dinner. I know, right? Sometimes I feel like if they didn't eat, I'll like set out some oatmeal or whatever. Other times the husband has to do it or they're on their own. And then I slip out of the house. I get to work. It takes me like 15 minutes to get to work. And then we have a hair and makeup team. I do that, which that in of itself is a blessing. It is. And then the show must go on. Today, I told you guys, my kids are texting me and calling me while I'm on the set because they didn't want to go to school. And this one is this, and this one didn't do this one. This one took the phone charger. Now their phone is dead. This one is just, it's constant. Like most, and a lot of us are doing it. We're texting. Hoda FaceTimes every morning at a certain time in the morning. She FaceTimes her kids. Carson, I remember when Carson has little ones, he still has babies. They have like cameras everywhere. So he'll like watch the baby. We watch the baby in the crib. I mean, you know, everybody, we're all trying to find ways to be present when we're not there. It's real.
Yeah.
That is real.
That's true.
Yeah.
How is it as well, you know, you talk about your kids and your family. How is it like with friendships? Like when do you have time? If you're doing all of this at work and then you come home to your family, do you have time to like actually connect, you know, and like...
That is such a good question because we don't talk about that enough, especially when you're moving to a city where you don't know anybody. I don't have any family. You know what I mean? There's no village for my kids. Like where I grew up, I was always at my grandmother's house. I was always at my auntie's house. Like my mom, you know, it was just the way it was, right? I had a village. And so it's hard to raise 3 kids in the city when you don't have a village, right?
Right.
Wait, shoot, I forgot the question.
No, you're talking about friendships, like not.
Friends.
Anyone.
So I remember a couple of years now, I've had like these resolutions to be a better friend. My college friends get it. So they're still my ride or dies, even though they're all in different cities from Chicago to Miami to LA. But being here, it's hard to make friends. I go to bed at 8:00. Like lately, it's been gala season here in New York City, so I've like stayed up late and it's been fun. I was stumbling all over the place yesterday. I was like, okay, Sheinelle, the words in the prompter are not supposed to be jumping up and down. Like that's not the prompter operator. That's my eyes because your butt needs some sleep. So you need to stop these galas and go to bed.
Real talk.
Seriously, yesterday, if anybody watched. At 8:12, I apologize. I literally like the words were not standing still. I was like, and I was up all night. Woo! Like this is so much fun. Let's just stay a little longer. Because I'm like, I want to be a big girl. I'm tired of being Cinderella. I want to go out.
Right.
But anyway, so no, it's a challenge. But I've tried. But it has been difficult. Like, I have maybe a few like new. I call them ride or dies here in New York City, but it's harder. And people think because I'm on the air and because I'm on the news, my social circle is so big and I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people, but how many people are like
time to do that
on a Friday on my couch, like just, you know, doing nothing, hanging out,
trying to connect with your kids,
laughing.
Yeah, that part is hard.
Yeah,
I can
it's tough.
that.
It's tough. But I make it work. I'm trying. A lot of my girlfriends are in Jersey and they're like, come this way.
You need to come. We're going to have you in the family app. We're going to have you in the family app.
But then I drive and I'm like, man, y'all drive all this way and don't let there be traffic.
Listen, that's how I feel when I be driving into New York. Like, dang, I got to go an hour.
So it's so, you know, it's trade-offs. My kids Uber everywhere. Like, and then if I were in the suburbs, I guess they wouldn't have to, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I want to change the subject a little bit and talk about something that's kind of near and dear to you. And I think it's something that we actually kind of talked with a little bit with Nichelle Turner when she was on. She had talked about, you know, issues with fibroids. And
yes. This is absolutely. I'm so passionate about this.
Yes. And I know that you're also passionate about this. Talk about why.
Let me tell you why. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So 2020 changed my life. In many ways. Look, it was a tough time for this country, for so many members of our community. The silver lining of it for me was a pause button a little bit, because you see, I'm always going. But doing the show remotely and being home and having a chance to think, it allowed me to really soul search as to what I really wanted to do. Between the pandemic and George Floyd, I felt like, okay, Sheinelle, who am I? What is let's talk about my purpose. Like, I'm on the news every day, but what am I doing with this platform? How can I move the needle forward? What am I doing for my community? All the things, right? I have a daughter of color, I have sons. Like, what am I doing, right? I have this platform. And I have these 3 beautiful children, and I'll be honest, I didn't have any problem having children. I had my first son, what was I, 28 or 29, 30, something like that. And then I had my twins at 33, naturally had twins, so I didn't have any problems. But at the same time, my best friends, my day ones, my ride or dies, my line sisters who we used to kiki, like first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby, and the baby carriage. We never thought that wouldn't be our stories. And so we graduate from college. We're all career driven. Some of them are attorneys. Some of them are, doctors, all these women who are like killing it, marketing and all these things. And all of a sudden it was like, wait, like either you can't find Mr. Right or Ms. Right. You have these fibroids and you're constantly having these surgeries. And it was like, I almost started feeling not guilty that I have children, but just like, as a friend, I didn't know what to say, how to help. My sister-in-law, like, I watched her go through miscarriages and 9 rounds of IVF and still nothing. And it's just, and I'm watching, women go to the workplace, going to do an IVF and going to a bathroom and giving themselves these shots and then going back out into the workplace as if nothing is happening. And it's like, if you have a relative who's sick, or if you're sick, you take a sick day. But when you're dealing with IVF or fibroids or endometriosis, it's like you just have to suck it up, and you're over here, sorry to say, but bleeding and like hurting and can't talk about it. And so I felt like, you know what? Maybe I could start talking about it. And I would see stories on fertility sometimes, and they never showed women of color. And so I was like, I know all my friends who are going through it, and it's a lot of them, and we never see us. And why do I feel like we have so many fibroids? Like, is it in the meat? Is it in the hormones? Is it, what is going on? So I was like, you know what?
I think it's just you. Yeah.
What enough is enough. And so people think that because I work at NBC, like I just had this ability to just, do a documentary. And it was like, no, I am a journalist. I've never done a documentary before. I called a friend from college who has a production company. And I was like, I don't have permission yet from the network, but I just want to see if there's a there. I got my girlfriends together. We met up. We rented a place in Brooklyn, sat around, put our makeup on. One of my friends does makeup, did our makeup, sat, and we just talked about it. One at a time, I interviewed my friends. And when I was finished, I was like, this is something. So we put it together. And then I took it to my bosses, and I was like, can you see something? I made like a little reel. I was like, can you just see this? And they were like, oh my goodness. I'm like, can you help me? Like, can you help me finish this? And so I pitched it. I got no's, I pitched it to Peacock, like all these things people think, oh, you're in the building. You could just, no. And then it ended up on MSNBC. The president of MSNBC is a woman of color. Her name was Atoya Jones. And she heard through the grapevine that I was working on it. And she heard through the grapevine probably that I had a lot of no's and it was going to die. And she was like, you know what? There's a slot on a Sunday. And I'm not doing this because I'm a woman of color. This is good. This is good television. Like, so don't think this is about that. Like, it's good television. And so then I'm like, okay, we got a yes. And then I call my girlfriends back up. I'm like, we got to do this. Like, let's be our best selves. Like, let's be honest. And we just went back to the place in Brooklyn and did the rest of it and edited it and put it together. And so when it aired on MSNBC, it was like, I'm sure it was amazing. It was amazing. It was, to see, 7 brown women of color in primetime television talking about their fertility. Yeah. Like, talk about, and it transcended race. I mean, there were women of all race, women in general. I got more letters, and it was very overwhelming. I ended up getting sick right afterwards. I think I'd worked so hard on it. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know about doing a documentary. And then these women were putting their lives in my hands, like their husbands. I had to ask them for permission too, because it's putting their stories out there. One of the women hadn't really talked to her family about it, so it's just, but I thank them for sharing their stories. And I can't tell you how many women have called me, even just within last week. Hey, I'm freezing my eggs because I heard, and I thought about a little one like me in Wichita, and you're going to these doctors, and if you they just tell you to take Tylenol, you're cramping, or if you're getting all these fibroids. I had 2 friends who had so many surgeries, not knowing that it would affect their fertility down the line. And so I'm like, if I can reach some of these women who don't have doctors in their lives to tell them this, it's like, hey, let's ask before you're doing all these surgeries. Or if you're in your upper 30s, it's time to ask your gynecologist about your egg count. Like things that we just don't talk about, like let's talk about it. Like let's do it.
Yeah. Did it take the friends that you interviewed? Did it take some convincing for them to even feel comfortable having those conversations?
Absolutely. I think they knew that I would handle their lives with care. These were my sisters. One of them is my literal sister-in-law. If anything, I felt like I had to talk to my husband because it's his sister, and it's like something my husband's Nigerian, and we talked a lot about that in the West African community or just African community. Like, as soon as you get married, where are your children? A lot of us deal with that. Yeah. And then when you come in for Christmas and you're the surprise auntie, but where are your kids? And people don't, a lot of our relatives, I got on my mom about that. All right, what's going on with you? I'm like, Mom, you can't. Some women are like struggling, and our families are like, why don't you have kids yet? What's going on? It's like, let's try to handle this with a little more grace. But I am happy to say my sister-in-law, via surrogacy. So when we did the documentary, it was too painful to even talk about. We didn't even put it in. After 8-9 rounds of IVF, she only had one fertilized vial left, with the egg and sperm, like the full embryo. And she had one left. And so we were just like, oh, well, she was going to adopt, sure, at the time of the doc. Well, that little vial is now a little girl who was born last week via surrogacy.
Oh, congratulations.
It's been...
Okay, Auntie.
That is beautiful.
Know.
Yeah.
And she poured her heart out to us. Like, when the documentary aired, it was heavy at times because these women want children. Some of them have children. And I felt strongly about not having all women who had struggled and have kids, because some women, that's not their life story, so they have to find other ways, or they're dealing with whatever it is. Like, I wanted it to be honest. And so Ada was one of those that when we ended the piece, it was a question mark, If
that was something.
And we have others who are still hoping, so.
Lord. I'm glad you shared that. I really am.
Yeah. No, I am.
Even the update.
Thank you. I'm passionate about it, and this it taught me, for all of us, if you have a little itch or something you've been wanting to do, it may not be a documentary, but maybe it's to sing, and maybe you're an attorney by day or a dentist, but you really just love to sing, or maybe you love to draw and you just are always working with the kids, so you've never really had time to take an art class. Like, this showed me that you should do it. Time waits for no one. And when you do it, and I think it's part of your purpose, I think the blessings that come out of it are wilder than you can ever imagine. And, Oprah always says, God has bigger dreams for you than you can dream for yourself. That is certainly the case for me.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We all love
Oprah. I also want to talk about another show that you have. Through Mom's Eyes.
Oh, yes.
Where you speak to like the moms behind some of our favorite celebrities. Can you talk a little bit about that show?
I love that show. So look, because I'm not, so Savannah and Hoda are our main anchors. And when I first got here, I was like, look, I know I'm not going to be on at 7 a.m. every morning. I was doing the third hour. I started here doing the weekends. So I was trying to find a place for me, trying to find a place at the network. Like, everybody kind of has their lane. Carson does the voice. It's like, what am I going to do? And especially if all these A-listers are coming, I'm probably not interviewing all these A-listers. And so I remember all the interns will tell you, I take everybody to lunch. I'm always there at my house, our pages. Like, I kind of just believe in that because people did it for me. And so literally we had a page. She's at my house because there are some days I'm like, I have 3 kids. If you want to come over, you're welcome while I cook dinner, So one of the pages was at my house, and she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, honestly, the kids were I was like, I would love to like talk to like Steph Curry's mom and be like, how'd you do it? Because I have kid athletes, right? Or, talk to... Lady Gaga's mom. And she was like, well, you should do that. Like, I bet you these women would be happy to talk to you about their journey and what they learned and what have you. And the rest is history. Steph Curry's mom, Sonia was my first mom. No, I did Alma Wahlberg, Wahlberg's mom, Shaq's mom. It's been the most fulfilling thing, I got to tell you. And when I go in, I'm like so excited because we just sit down and we just chat. I can only air so much of it, but I'm always there for forever. And we're talking, and I've learned so much from these women.
Yeah. Your son, what sports does your son play?
So my boys play soccer. Which is new for me because, again, in Kansas, it was all about football and basketball. So I have this Nigerian husband who played soccer. I was like, he's like, it's football. I'm like, it's not football. Football's football. Stop calling it football. I used to get so mad at him. I'm like, my kids are going to go to school and be confused. That is soccer. This is football. He's like, no, it's football. I'm like, oh.
He's like, those damn Americans.
You play soccer. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
But yeah, so no, but my kids are hardcore soccer. Like they play every day. The boy, it's a lot. It's a lot for any parent of kids who play sports.
Oh yeah.
You probably know.
And I'm like, it's like next level now. Now you see, I'm like, these kids be up. I go to the gym at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. It's kids in the gym getting trained, like basketball training, agility training, all the things. I'm like, well, wait a minute now.
He's
lot. 7.
Right?
It's
a lot. It's a lot to juggle. It's a lot on the family. You know, I keep seeing all these people talk about how important it is to sit down and have dinner as a family. And it's like, well, if we waited for everybody to be home at the same time, we'd be eating dinner like 8:30 at night because they have practices every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is so hard, and then you're juggling 2 different times, right? You might have one practice at this time, one practice at this time, a game at this time. Take this person. Like it's just like as long as there's dinner on the table, whenever y'all eat it, you eat it.
I mean, that's just that's the season that we're in, right? And then my daughter wants nothing to do with it. My husband has put a ball. He might as well just like put it next to her pillow, hoping that she
she picks it up.
Yeah, she's like, where are my tap shoes? Like take your ball.
Yeah, I do wonder though, because like my oldest is in AAU basketball.
So
league, I know soccer is just as competitive. Atoya kids are also competitive too. I wonder, I'm like, we were going through our travel schedule for 2023 and it was like every month a tournament like out of town. And I was like, well, hold up. Okay. Cause I'm taking a damn vacation at some point and it won't be going to a basketball tournament.
I know.
Right.
Like, do you have weekends?
I have no weekends. Like literally from February to the end of March, there's a tournament every weekend. I said, well, he ain't going to something.
Yeah, that's what you're going to have to start doing.
You'll
put your foot down.
Yeah, because I'm still in the I don't even know what Saturdays look like anymore. I mean, you know, and people see me, I'm going from this game to that game and this dance practice. Yeah. You know, Saturdays are like we're all, you know, the shuffle.
Yeah, but Atoya and I just met up in Arizona.
Really?
And I was like, I got 2 hours, and then I got to run to this basketball tournament. Like,
yeah, you know,
this is our meetup point.
It is. Like, I say all that, but you know what? Somebody like Al Roker will look at me and say, "Sheinelle, you wait, you blink." And they will all be out of the house. So I have so many colleagues who are on the other side of it. And so I also recognize that it's a season. And they all, and the moms that I interviewed, I remember, who was it? Oh, Gronk's mom. And she had 5 boys. Rob Gronkowski. She had 5 boys. 4 played for the NFL. 1 for the for played baseball.
Okay.
So, you know, 5 kids. It's like you have the odds are better to win the lottery than if 5 kids to play professional sports. So 5 boys. She would tell me how she would buy like half a cow, literally put the meat in the freezer. She's making casseroles all the time. I mean, 5 boys all day long. And she misses it a little bit sometimes. Like I asked her, I'm like, do you miss it? And she got a little teary. Like she misses it. So now she's got this quiet house, beautiful. Everything's in place, you know. And sometimes I'll come in and stuff's all over the place, or you know. And I'm like, you know what? There will be a time where I wish somebody would come and move something, you know. So I try to keep that in mind. Or my friends who would do anything to just have 1 child. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I try to keep it in perspective and know that, you know what, this is a blessing. You know,
it really is.
That is
and
true.
I think we forget that sometimes as parents. It's such a blessing and a privilege, you know, to raise our babies. I think my oldest is now 18. He's a senior. And I think I mean, I just have a moment. Well, just yesterday we were sitting here eating dinner, laughing and talking. And I just had this moment. I was like, you won't be here this time next year. And he's like, oh, Mom. And I'm like, it's just so crazy because he's like the life of the party. You know, he's that one that's, he makes everyone laugh. He's just so his energy is contagious, and I was like, it's gonna be so boring here without you.
So that's the thing, right? Like it's such an emotional roller coaster. I think I guess that I think it's okay to whatever it is. Like if you are stressed, it's okay to acknowledge your stress. And I think two things can be true at the same time. I think we can be overwhelmed and be running all over the place and miss our Saturdays and be beyond over the moon, thankful and grateful at the same time that we have. You know what I mean? So I think it's okay to live in all of these spaces. It's human.
Yes, so human.
Yeah.
And girl, I can't even believe it. I mean, he's going to college.
He's about to go to college. Does he know where he wants to go, or is that not like?
Yeah, he's actually going. He's playing football in Nevada, so that's why I just had this moment. We were all sitting there. I'm like, gosh, this will not be next year.
Wow,
this will be. This won't be.
That's the reality. I know. I'm telling you.
Don't blink, y'all.
I know.
Don't blink.
I know.
Okay, we're going to change the subject before we all start crying on here. Okay. Tia, let's talk about the playbook.
Okay, yeah, I'll share. So the theme for our season is the playbook, right? Okay. When we think about life's journeys, like you enter in these pivotal stages where your chapter may change or pivot. Well, one of the questions you already answered, because it's like when you were 21, 22, the vision that you had for yourself, do you think you are living it? And so that's essentially like you have been pursuing journalism since you were in elementary school, right? That's what you're doing. What else is there that you saw for yourself that you would like to maybe like start to pivot into or just get more experience into?
That's a really good question. Look, it's a journey, and I'm so glad you guys are doing this podcast and giving us space to talk about these things, because I think they see us on TV or wherever, the other people that you're talking to, and we know it doesn't happen overnight, but they don't know the real, And I remember there were times where I'll be flying home to Wichita to see my grandparents, and first of all, every time I would get home from these cities I lived in, my grandparents looked a little older. My mom looked just a little older. Like, it's like, dang, like. Yep. And that is real, not being able to be home all the time. And there was an airline, I don't remember what airline it was, but they used to have on the back of the cocktail napkins on a flight, or on the back of the napkins, they would have dots for all the cities that they, their hubs or where they would fly to. And I remember staring at the napkin and looking at the red dots and wondering where I was going to end up. Because I was open. I didn't care where. I just wanted to be a reporter, and I just wondered where. And so sometimes it's like, you know where you want to go, but you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so that's when you just have to put your head down and just do the next right thing. So that's what I tried to do. And even now, it's like living in the city. Okay, this is really tough. What are we going to do? Like, I'm always quoting Oprah, when you don't know what to do, be still. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm still. Like, what now what? You know what I mean?
What you want me to do?
And same with my career. Like, I love what I'm doing. Doing that documentary definitely gave me the itch to do more. I'd love to write a book. I'd love to stretch. I'd love to just keep stretching. And I think for me, as long as I remember, for me, the golden rule, which is it is not about me. Right. I feel like God didn't give me these gifts to sit here and for me to just be on TV every day. Like, that's not what this is about. Like, when I'm getting emails from women who are like, you know what? I never thought about freezing my eggs. And it turns out I went and I don't have very many. So I'm glad I checked, that kind of stuff. Like, that is bigger than me. Raising money for causes or bringing awareness to some of these programs in some of these communities. Like, that is why I do what I do. And so as long as I keep that as my focus and know that it's not about me, things have been good. And I also see in this business that things can change like that. Lives can change like that. So I'm thankful for my health. The people I work with, everyone meditates and prays. I used to hear about meditation, but I didn't really know anything about it. I used to be like, I'll just pray. And I'm like, you can do both. You can pray, and you can also find space to either meditate or exercise or walk. So I'm also more aware of that as I get a little bit older, that our health is our wealth. So I've been trying to kind of make sure I take care of myself. All of those things.
Yeah, those are great.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
This is such a good interview. Y'all are amazing.
We're going to lighten it up a little bit this time. We're going to play. We always end with a really fun game. It's called the 2-minute drill.
Yes.
And we're basically going to ask you a this, that, or the other. So it'll be a this or that where you choose one, or it'll be a fill in the blank, which is the other. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Here we go. Outdoor fireplace with s'mores or indoor hot chocolate and a movie.
I'm going to do indoor hot chocolate and a movie. If I lived in like LA and it was warm and I had this like beautiful mansion and I'm outside looking at mountains and sky, okay, fine. But
Yeah.
in my
But not
reality
New
right
York.
now, I think I
In
gotta
the
go
city.
inside.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What's the bravest thing you've ever done?
That's a really good question. Have you ever had a kid who is not well? Like, goodness forbid, not, terminal, goodness forbid, but like, I think when your kids aren't okay, whether it's mental or physical, it is very difficult as a mom it's such a brave thing, like to push through and be there for them and be a brave face if your kids aren't well and get through it. And when you get through it, and Lord willing, they're fine and they're okay, you're like, but there have been some times where it was really stressful
Scary.
as a mom.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like, I remember, my kid got knocked at a game. I know that seems really silly, but they had to pull me back from running, and it
on the field. Yeah.
yeah, or like a health scare, or it's really, they say, what is it when you have children? It's like your heart's outside of your body, and so it's kind of stressful sometimes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I think that is bravery. Moms who deal with that day in day out. And there are moms who are like really going through stuff. Sorry, I don't want to curse on your show. But like, so I think they are so.
I only been clean because you bleeped yourself.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, well, I'll be clean today.
They're so brave. Look, from a career perspective, taking leaps, moving to cities that I've never lived in was definitely brave. Trying to do projects that I've never thought I could do. All those things are brave. But then when I think about like real stuff, it's when you're tested.
That's
And it's
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's good. Okay. Favorite person to follow on IG?
Ooh, oh my goodness.
Someone that you just go to that makes you you look for something that they put on there daily.
Oh my goodness. Oh man, I have like such a nice little variety of things. Like, okay,
She's like,
you know what I'm
Okay,
gonna do?
just
I'm gonna
pick
open
one,
up my
just
Instagram
one.
right now.
Who pops up
Let's see
first?
who's
Who
at the
pops up?
top. Yeah.
Okay, that's not fair. The Today Show popped up. We went Christmas caroling outside of Al Roker's house. He's been in the hospital for like a month. We did. That was the whole. Yeah. So okay, that's the first thing that pops up. Next, E. Bracy. Okay. Ricky Smiley. That's random.
Okay.
Alvin Ailey. You could probably tell a lot about a person by who pops up on the thread. Meredith Coop. Have you heard of Meredith Coop? Michelle Obama's
of
stylist.
course. I want her to style me. I love
Meredith.
okay.
Oh, girl.
So when Michelle came here to Brooklyn, she was at Barclays Center. Girl,
I
and
was
she
there.
had on those
Boots.
gold over the knee thigh high boots. Stop. I was like, Meredith, where you at? Let me see if I can find you. Oh, she ain't looking for me. She ain't looking for me.
And she's so nice. So that's the thing about this job. When I find people I admire, I like interview them. And so with Meredith, I interviewed her, and she's so nice. She's a dancer. Like she likes to dance, and fashion was just her thing that she did on the side. Like she grew up in Chicago and like worked at a shop, and like women would come in, and she would be like, "Do you want to try this?" So that also it lets me know. Look, some people go to school for fashion and they do all the things, and that's fine. But that was not her path, and she's styling the first lady. I love following Oprah. Like I love hearing. Me
too.
I love. I also follow like a lot of these like. It's called like success or wealth and it like has like all these positive sayings.
Yes.
Yeah. But you need the reminder.
Yeah.
You need that reminder.
I kind of remind them. I follow all these plant-based people. I can't get it together, but I'm sure one day I'm going to try.
You sound like Nate.
Okay.
I always call him a fake vegan. I'm like, you all over the place. You don't know what you want to do.
I mean, when I'm on a roll, like, I'm like, I could do this. And then I'm like, oh. But I follow them because the recipes.
It's the effort that counts.
Their recipes always look so good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could make some cashew cream.
Oh, can you?
No. But I'm going to watch this woman drizzle it all over this chocolate.
Okay. Last question. What is next for you?
Oh, guys, pray for me. Pray for me that the good Lord orders my steps. I love doing the third hour, but I definitely want to continue to stretch. I would love to write a book. I would love to do more documentaries with women in my community and stories that I can tell. We called it Stories We Tell because I feel like there's so many other stories that I can tell. The challenge is just the bandwidth to get those things done and be the kind of mother that I would like to be and be present And like after 2020, I started picking my kids up from school every day. I didn't used to do that. I used to have a babysitter. Like I always find like college students who would like help me out. But now I'm like, no, I want to be there. Like I want to be the one to pick them up because I know it's like pretty soon they're not going to need me to come pick them up. Yeah, so I just, it's like that constant tug of like trying to be, y'all know, everybody knows who's listening. So I'm just like, Lord, give me the strength and and you know, keep my health, like all the things. I try every day. I try and then I fall off, but it's early still. So I've got this beet juice.
Look at you. Okay, beet
it is
juice.
The effort. Okay,
is it nasty though?
Beet,
is it
apple, lemon, ginger. What happened was I ate it after something sweet. So I'm like, this doesn't taste sweet anymore.
Oh, right. You should have had it first.
Juice is actually pretty good.
I'm trying. Lord knows I'm trying.
You know what? You are so inspiring and hilarious. You really are.
Trying to make it work.
I know some people are going to be like, I would love to get a hold of her somehow. So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Please follow me on Instagram. It's Sheinelle_O. It is impossible to spell my name. I remember having a general manager who asked me to change the spelling of my name, and I said no. Because he was like, it's too hard to spell Sheinelle. And I'm like, well, people can just learn. My mom's name is Sheila. My dad's name is Darnell. They smushed it together. This is why I have a random I in my name. But it's SHEINELLE_O. And please, and DM me. Everybody will tell you. I talk to everybody. Like I'm not, it may take me a second to get to your message, but I love it. I talk to people because, why not?
Yeah, and I'll be sure to drop links to your IG and our show notes.
Please. You guys are the best.
You are the best. Thank you for joining us. You are amazing, and your energy is contagious. It really is.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, let's talk about Sheinelle. Her conversation and her energy is everything.
She is hilarious. I'm glad she spoke about the finding friendships in adulthood. Like that is just difficult. If you you of course you got your kids' friends, parents, and whatever, but like true just village, true tribal. Yeah,
it is. It's a lot harder than people think. And I also enjoyed her opening up and talking about her friends and even her family members when she's talking about infertility and the struggles that women go through that aren't really talked about. So,
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that is our show, y'all. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow us on Inside Lines podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
And you can also listen online and share your favorite episode at InsideLinesPodcast.com. And don't forget, we have a YouTube channel. Check us out at Inside Lines Podcast.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.